Happy Tuesday, guys. What's up? Welcome in to another episode of the Bostonian versus the Book. We are live on YouTube and X. We're replayed on Sports Grid Television and audio podcasts wherever you guys get your audio podcasts. My name is Matt Perrault. We today will bounce around. It is a college football day for the guest, Pete Futek, college football news. We'll stop on by talking about the coaching carousel and what's going to happen for all these openings. Penn State, Florida. What about Florida State? What about LSU? We'll get to that coming up in about 30 minutes of the program. We have baseball to get into. The World Series is set. The Yankees, you guys are okay. A lot of Yankee fans are all upset. They're all whining on Twitter and Facebook today, all about, well, we have 27 championships and we hate the Blue Jays and the Dodgers are going to win their 9th championship and blah. Really? Come on, boys. It's been a while, I know. It's been a long time. You got to deal with the Toronto Blue Jays in the World Series. It feels weird. 1993 was a long time ago, but George Springer with a 3-run bomb that will go down in the history of baseball as one of the biggest home runs in postseason history. Last night, what a moment, what a play. We'll get to that, but we start the show with the return of the NBA. It's back. The association with 2 games tonight. Even more coming up tomorrow. I thought it would be fun to take a look at some future bets. We haven't done this in a while where we take a look at a bunch of different picks and plays that you guys can make here for the opening of a season. I got 5 bets for you. Here are my top 5 favorite NBA win total bets that you can make, fade or follow if you want, as we head towards the start of the 25-26 NBA season tonight for our opening line. All right, opening line. Let's talk about the 5 favorite NBA win total bets that I've got here. I'm going to use what Yahoo Sports put out today. Yahoo Sports put out their top 30. Well, they ranked 1 to 30, the starting 5s for the NBA. So when you see the number next to these things I'm going to put on the screen, that's where those numbers are coming from. It's the ranking. But I want to talk about teams and thoughts as we head towards the season, and then we can go back and watch this in 6 months and laugh at me because I'll be dead wrong. I'm going to start with the Celtics. Okay. Hear me out. Okay. Before you get all like, oh, of course, Homer bet Matt. Hold on. Hold on. Let's talk about Boston. Okay. 41.5 wins. I have used this logic to bet on teams like the Cardinals and the Red Sox when it comes to their team totals in baseball. I'm going to use the same logic for the NBA. Because I don't believe that Joe Mazzulla understands how to lose in the NBA. I don't believe that Brad Stevens is going to just allow this team to wallow and be an under 500 team in the hopes that Jason Tatum comes back to save the season. The starting 5 is not something that's going to make you jump up and down. I like Sam Hauser a lot. Off the bench. He's an awesome role player on a championship caliber team. He is not a starting 5 player in the NBA, but he will be on this team. Peyton Pritchard just won the NBA's 6th Man of the Year award. Peyton Pritchard was tremendous last year. Now he's starting. I don't know if I love that. That's a question. It is Jaylen Brown and Derek White's team, and Derek White is still one of the most underappreciated guards in the NBA. He is tremendous. Jaylen Brown now becomes the alpha. So what does he do to fill Jason Tatum's shoes? I'll tell you what he does. He does nothing, because I believe Boston will play dramatically different this year than they have in years past. Boston has been a 3-point shooting barrage offensive team. Boston has been an up-tempo team, and they've been a lockdown defending team. I actually think they're going to become a similar team to what the Magic looked like last year, except with better players. Now, they don't have a Paulo Banchero, and more on the Magic here in a second, but I do think that Boston is going to play physical defense, and they're going to lock down on whomever they're going to play against. I think Boston's going to beat people up this year. I think they're just going to start being more physical than ever before, and Joe Mazzulla gets to go into the lab and just do what he loves to do, which is create defenses that people are not able to figure out. I think Boston wins 45, 40, 46 games. And Jason Tatum has already been seen running and working out with the Celtics. It is October. You're trying to tell me that we're going to see Jason Tatum sit the entire NBA season? I mean, Tatum has said he's not sitting. The Celtics haven't ruled him out. When does he come back? I think he plays by Easter. And it's not going to stun me if Jason Tatum comes back and plays for the Celtics by St. Patrick's Day. Not to keep the pun going with the Celtics, but I think that's the date. That's my circle date. Does he play by St. Patrick's Day? If he does, he'll play all of April, all of May, and then we'll see where Boston is, which is probably going to be, a lower level, maybe a play-in tournament team that nobody will want to play if Jason Tatum is there. I think Boston wins 45 games. I do. With or without Tatum, I think the Boston Celtics over 41.5 wins simply because of the coach and Joe Mazzulla. Number 4, I'm fading the Lakers. The Lakers under 47.5 wins. You want to keep with the Celtics homerism? There you go. I think this team without LeBron and Luka is Luka. Okay, he's in great shape, but Luka doesn't stay healthy. Even we don't know what Luka will be like with this new body type that he's got. Maybe he's great. Maybe he plays the whole year. It hasn't happened much for Luka Doncic. Even at his young age, he's not been able to stay healthy for 82 games. So how many games does he miss? When does LeBron come back? Because you look at this starting 5 for the Lakers and you're like, okay, Luka and LeBron are great when they're available. This team won 50 games last year, and they were able to trade for Luka Doncic, and they were able to somehow get a really good team, obviously, around LeBron. But the other 3, I mean, if you're banking on DeAndre Ayton to suddenly fix the problem in the middle, if you're thinking that this team is going to have Anthony Davis and it's going to be there for the entire year, I just don't see it. LeBron's banged up. Davis is banged up. Luka doesn't stay healthy. LeBron's too old. I'm going under. I think it's a good play to go under 47.5 wins for the LA Lakers. Can't see it. People might be there. I can't see it. I think the Lakers are going to have a rough year. Again, 50 wins last year. 46, 45 wins this year is not a gigantic step backwards, but I do think they're going to lose more than last year. And yes, Ayton's out of shape all the time, 100%. So I can't see that. Number 3, the team you'll see tonight. It's a big number. OKC over 62.5 wins, but this could be a historic year for the Thunder. I started watching on Netflix last night, the Starting 5 show, the second season that has come out. And I dabbled in the first season and watched a little bit of it, but I didn't see a ton of it. It was the Celtics championship stuff, so I didn't really watch a lot of it. I watched a lot of the Boston local stuff for Boston winning the championship, but this is not now in the wake of the Thunder's championship. And so we're going back and we're recapping what happened and Halliburton's injury and what Jaylen Brown and the Celtics went through. And it's a really interesting show, but Shea, SGA, is the star of it. And you get to learn a lot about him and a lot about the OKC Thunder and how different this team is because of the youth of their lineup. These guys have all now been paid, but they've been paid to stay together. And yes, the depth might be a little bit of a concern for the Thunder, but that team is ridiculous. Now, Jalen Williams is banged up right now, but that team is ridiculous. Hartenstein is the one weak, quote unquote, weak link of that starting 5. But that starting 5 is ridiculous. That's the best starting 5 in the NBA. They're massive favorites to repeat, as they should be. And SGA, I guess you can make I think you're going to be able to make a pretty good case for the Joker with the Nuggets. I think Jokic is going to be very good this year. But that team is great. That team is unbelievable. And I don't know who beats them this year. Maybe injury, but they're all coming into their prime. 63 wins. I mean, they could win 65 easy. Now, I get it. It's only an 82-game schedule, but can you see them winning 70 games? 70-12? It's not crazy. It's not nuts for them to get in the upper 60s and approach 70 wins. given what this team is looking like. And now they're motivated to back up everybody that doubted them last year. That, oh, yeah, fine. 1 year wonder. That's great. You guys got lucky. You guys played great, but, a couple things went your way. The referees, all that stuff about SGA and the foul calls that he gets and everything else. If he doesn't get fouled, he can't score, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Whew. OKC, 62.5 wins. I like over. Number 2, we're going under on Philly. Embiid can't be trusted. Under 43.5 wins for this Sixers team is a disaster in my mind. I mean, Embiid, Maxey, George. How many games is Paul George going to stay for, right? Kelly Oubre, like, what are we doing? Like, Nick Nurse, if you're going to sit here and tell me that you want to be, on the Nick Nurse side of things, you want to be putting everything with Nick Nurse, go right ahead. It's all you. I'm not doing it. I think Philly's in for a rough year, and I don't think Embiid plays much. He can't be trusted. He's hurt all the time, and I'm not putting my money behind Joel Embiid being out there. Sixers are a 40-win basketball team. We're going under 43.5 wins for the Philadelphia 76ers. And then for me, number 1, my favorite bet that I've made for the preseason, win total wise in the NBA, Orlando Magic, over 51.5 wins. I think we're seeing a new power in the East emerge. And I think this Magic team is going to be really tough to deal with. Banchero's great. Franz Wagner is great. But Desmond Bane coming over is going to help what was a historically bad three-point shooting team for the Magic last year. They couldn't hit the broadside of the barn shooting threes last year. I think he's going to help a ton. He's also going to help them a ton defensively. They already were the best, or one of the top 3 best NBA defensive teams already. As I said, I'm back in defense this year. I think defense in the NBA is going to come back into style, into vogue. And I like the Magic a lot to go and win 53, 54, 55 games. For all these bets, injuries factor in, right? For Boston, if they lose Jaylen Brown for a significant amount of time, that bet's toast, okay? Toast. They'll win 30 games. So that's a fear, right? The Magic, if they lose Banchero for any period of time of length, a month and a half, that bet's toast, okay? So health comes into play. So obviously everyone pushes back by saying, well, wait a minute, what about depth and what about injuries? That's the NBA, okay? We're talking about star power in the NBA. We're talking about, superstar. If SGA gets hurt, we're not seeing 62 wins. The Thunder still will be a very good basketball team without SGA, but they're not going to be at the level they are right now, which is elite, which is top 2, top 3 teams in the NBA. And tonight, we're seeing the Rockets come in. I'm seeing people in the chat talk about the Pistons. I looked at the Pistons, okay? 100%. I looked at the Pistons. That's a team that I think will have a very good season. I'm just not ready to back them yet, given the inconsistencies that we've seen from Detroit over the last 2 seasons, okay? I don't know what to make. The progress for the Pistons has been slow and steady, but I'm just not there. Pistons got knocked out by the Knicks last year in the postseason. Maybe they take another step forward this year. Maybe they don't. I'm a little concerned about them. What do the Pacers look like in the wake of Tyrese Halliburton's injury? He's out. He's not coming back, okay? He's nowhere near in terms of the development. He's not playing this season. So he's gone, okay? So then where do you go with the Pacers? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Miles Turner out. I don't know what to do with the Pacers. That could be a very bad year. I looked at fading the Knicks. We're talking about under bets. Looked at fading the Knicks. I think it's hysterical that the Knicks had to see yesterday their former head coach at Celtics practice breaking down game film of the Knicks win over Boston in the playoffs. Now, the injury to Tatum had a lot to do with that in a lot of ways. But you had the former coach, the fired head coach of the Knicks going to the Celtics to help Boston, their arch rival. So I don't know what to make of Mike Brown in New York. I don't know what to make of this team. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know what happens going forward. I don't know what the long-term outlook is going to be for the Knicks. I'm down on the Knicks, but they could be good. I mean, they're obviously going to be one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. They've got the talent. They're talking. There's so much hype. They're the only good team in the whole entire city of New York. Like, everything sucks in New York. The Rangers suck. The Jets suck. The Giants suck. Like, go through sports in New York, okay? Yankees can't win. Like, it's unbelievable. There is nothing really. The Knicks right now they're carrying the flag for the city of New York for the potential to be a championship caliber team, to make a deep run in the postseason. Good luck. But there is one team. There is one thing that I would look at from a total perspective. There's one more team I think we should talk about, and they are playing tonight. The Golden State Warriors. Golden State Warriors are 30-1 to win it all. 30-1 to win it all. This team, after they got Jimmy Butler, okay, they played 43 games with Jimmy Butler on their roster. Their record was 27-8. Oh, sorry, 28-15. In the 35 games was Butler, Curry, and Green all appeared together because of the injuries. They went 27-8. Now, injuries, right? But when it's Curry, Draymond Green, and Jimmy Butler together, that threesome for the Warriors, they went 27-8 together. Overall, they went 28-15 with Jimmy Butler on the court. Like, that's pretty darn good. So, can the Warriors stay healthy? Because they have Steph Curry, they have Steve Kerr, and they have Jimmy Butler. That's a good price. At 30-1 on the Warriors to win it all, that's a pretty darn good price. So, okay, if you want a future bet, Golden State Warriors to win it all at 30-1, don't mind it. Again, injuries, we'll see how it all plays out together with Curry, Green, and Butler. But tonight, I think you'll see a pretty good performance tonight out of the Warriors. More on that coming up here in a little bit. Last night in baseball, if you're in Toronto, you're probably still drunk. All right, what happened last night? George Springer made himself into a legend. If you were building statues outside of Rogers Center, you would do so for George Springer now after that 3-run home run, his 23rd home run in the postseason, tied number 3rd all time with Kyle Schwarber. But that one last night most likely was his most famous. I don't know what the Mariners were doing. They bungled their bullpen order, and they ended up having a pitcher came in that threw 2 innings the night before and threw an absolute meatball. Middle. Beautiful swing by George Springer. No doubt home run. 3-run bomb from up 3-1 to down 4-3, and that was it. The Mariners have still never played in a World Series, and I think everybody in Seattle today is just shaking their head at what happened. I mean, this Blue Jays team, they just won't say they won't die. I mean, they were down so many times in the series. They were down so many times in these playoffs. They were written off by so many people. George Springer, that home run, but Vlad Guerrero Jr. was awesome all series long. He becomes the ALCS MVP. You just got to be excited for Toronto to get to the World Series. I said it yesterday, and it's making people angry, and I don't mean to do that. Sometimes I do, but this time I don't. I don't mean to downplay the World Series because of who you're playing, but one team is playing against Shohei Ohtani, and the other one is without Shohei Ohtani. And I have a hard time backing Toronto, even with home field. Game 1, Friday night in Toronto. Ohtani, when he plays at this level, when Ohtani does what he did in game 4 against the Brewers, when the fact that the Brewers, who had a very opportunistic lineup, 1 through 9, not dominant. And I'm not saying Toronto's lineup is like the Brewers. It's not. It's much better. I mean, there is no Vladimir Guerrero. There is no George Springer in the lineup. And Bo Bichette is claiming he's going to come back. And Toronto fans are like, this is huge, Bo Bichette. I'm like, is it really? It's Bo Bichette. Okay, he's a good player. I'd want him on my team too. I'd rather have him play than not play. But mano a mano, arm to arm, bat to bat, player to player, the Dodgers are minus 250 to win the World Series for a reason. Like, it's not even close. Like, this is, I hope I'm wrong, okay? But I think this is a gentleman's sweep. This is a 4-1 situation for the Dodgers against the Blue Jays. And I want the Blue Jays to win, okay? If you're telling me who do I want to see win the World Series, it would be Toronto. Even though they're an arch rival of the Red Sox, I'm a Red Sox fan, I don't want to see the Dodgers win back-to-back championships. Look, the Red Sox have 9 championships. The Dodgers have 8. I don't want to see the Dodgers catch the Red Sox for third all time. No, Yankees are 1 at 27. Cardinals are 2 with 11. Red Sox have 9. Dodgers have 8. I don't want to see the Dodgers catch the Red Sox. So, and frankly, if the Dodgers win the World Series this year, how do they stop? Like, who stops them? Like, Ohtani, this is not fair. Ohtani is the greatest baseball player ever. And you can make a case that he is the most dominant athlete in any sport of any time, anywhere. That Ohtani is not just the GOAT of baseball. Ohtani is the GOAT of GOATs. Tom Brady didn't play linebacker. Tom Brady played quarterback. Wayne Gretzky didn't play defense. Like, go through the list of insane athletes, incredible top-of-the-line athletes. Michael Jordan, LeBron James. You want to put Ohtani and Jordan into a conversation? I'll listen. Jordan was unbelievable defensively. He was great. Played both ends of the court. He was an absolute dominant force on both ends of the floor. That's the category that Ohtani is in. And we've been playing baseball for longer than we've been playing basketball professionally. And the NBA, while incredible, while amazing, okay, the NBA is a global sport. I will give you that. NFL is not global. Hockey is global. But baseball is global. And this dude is doing things that we have never seen before. 3 home runs in a playoff game. It was done by 10 people. 10 players did that in the history of baseball. We have played over 250,000 games in Major League Baseball, played playoff baseball since the 1800s. 10 guys hit 3 home runs in 1 playoff game. Ohtani did that. 29 pitchers had pitched 6 1/3 innings worth of shutout baseball, 2-hit ball, and 10 Ks as a starter in the playoffs. 29 guys. Ohtani did both those things in 1 game by himself. By himself. So I just can't do it. I just can't sit here and say that the Blue Jays are in the same category, in the same league as the Dodgers when they pitch like this. The only hope, the only way that the Blue Jays win the World Series is if the Blue Jays get into that bullpen for the Dodgers and the starting pitching does not pitch well. But, oh yeah, Ohtani is one of those starters you have to go through. Like, okay, Blake Snell is on another planet right now. Blake Snell has been so good. Yamamoto just pitched a complete game in the postseason. Okay, he's on fire. You got Tyler Glass now, who has looked great in the playoffs. And then you hand the ball to that guy, to Ohtani. I don't care that the Blue Jays have Max Scherzer. I don't care how much grumbling and gruffy Max Scherzer is going to be out there. This is not a fair fight. This is just not a fair fight. If the Dodgers pitch the way the Dodgers are pitching, it's over. It's not happening. You're not beating that team, okay? Even with a payroll that's $280 million. I mean, the Blue Jays, this is not the Brewers. The Brewers had a bottom 10 payroll in baseball. This is a top 5 payroll in baseball. This is the team that tried to sign Shohei Ohtani. Remember the reports? Remember? He's on a plane. He's going to Toronto. Here comes Shohei. Remember that? Everybody was doing the whole plane watch thing. And Ohtani was going to be a Blue Jay. And then it was like, oh, shoot, he's a Dodger. Right? Like, this is so appropriate for the Shohei Ohtani-led Dodgers to be facing off against the Blue Jays in the World Series. Because everyone in Toronto is going to imagine what that guy would have looked like if he had taken their money. Instead, that money went to Vlad. And I don't think paying Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has been a bad idea. He just won the ALCS MVP. He's hit 6 home runs so far here in the postseason. But I just don't give it. Yep, that's the origin of the Ohtani watch. Good point, Edison. That is where the Ohtani watch came from. Was when he was supposed to go to Toronto. That's true. That's absolutely right. Where it came from. So I just cannot bring myself to jump up and down about the World Series and be super excited. I'm going to watch on Friday night, obviously. I mean, it's the World Series. I want to watch it, and I hope that Toronto is competitive. I would love Toronto winning game 1 wouldn't surprise me. Toronto wins game 1, they lose the next 4. That's very possible. I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see a long series. But I haven't bet it because I don't see a lot of value. It's Dodgers or nothing, and I'm not laying 250 on the Dodgers. I'm not going exotic like, whoever wins game 1 wins the series, all that wonkiness. I'm not getting involved in that. I'll bet it game by game, kind of, but I want to watch game 1 a little bit. But Friday night, if you're going to the game, that ticket is going to be so expensive. I mean, that's going to be one of the hardest tickets in the history of Canadian pro sports to get a hold of. Isn't it weird that the last championship in baseball and the last championship for hockey in Canada, the 2 sports that they play in America, the last time they won those championships was 1993. Both the years. That's bizarre. Last cup one was 93 with the Canadians. Last championship in the NBA, excuse me. I forgot about the NBA. Sorry, Toronto. Excuse me, Raptors. Sorry, that's not true. Let me correct myself. Raptors won championship with Kawhi. Forgot about that. So I guess there's 3. But last 93 for the Cup, 93 for Major League Baseball. Wow. Under 5.5 games is plus 136. Maybe. Good question, Mikey. How can you compare Tiger Woods to Ohtani? No defense in golf. That's the problem. The course is the defense in golf. There's nobody playing against you. Ohtani goes up against different players all the time, both offensively and defensively. He's up against other players, other humans. So golf has always been seen as a activity, not so much a sport. I think it's a sport, but people have often said that in order for a sport to be a sport, you have to be talking about defense. And defense in golf is the course itself, which is Mother Nature, which is difficult to compare sport to sport, golf to baseball. But dominant-wise overall, yes, Tiger, Michael, Ohtani, those are the conversations about dominating your sport, taking opportunities to do incredible things and just beating up on what's been happening. So I think you can make that case. You can have that conversation, but I would still put Ohtani above him. All right, last night on Monday Night Football, the Lions showed that they're still a team to be reckoned with. They looked great last night defensively. Offensively looked good. Gibbs was tremendous. Gibbs goes for career best 218 yards from scrimmage, most by a Lions player since Calvin Johnson did it in 2013, where he went for 329. What a game for Calvin Johnson. That per ESPN research. But the real bummer story of the game is the fact that Mike Evans suffered a collarbone break, and he's out for most likely the rest of the season. And his 1,000-yard streak will come to a close. And just a huge loss for this Bucs team. Huge disappointment in that locker room after the game. Just one of those losses from a player perspective that you just feel for the guy because of how good of a wideout he has been and how big of a weapon Baker Mayfield has had at his disposal. And him being gone just absolutely stinks. It puts a big time problem, I think, onto the Bucs going forward. It makes the drafting of Ibuka even more significant. But without that wideout speed, you wonder if the Bucs might make a trade for a wide receiver, try to add a weapon there for Baker to go ahead or bring somebody in to help Baker with this offense. They've got weapons, and they played, 3 games without him and played pretty well without Mike Evans. So, Baker has done some big things, but, they couldn't run the ball. They need to get Bucky Irving healthy, and they got to get that running game going again, because without the running game, they really can't do very much. And so get the offensive lineman healthy, get the running game going, and then I think the Bucs are going to be a team to be reckoned with. But I think you saw it last night that a team like the Lions with a defensive front like the Lions have very hard. I'm still like watching in my head Penny Sewell and the replay of him running with Gibbs stride for stride down the field. Like that is a 300-pound man running with a running back. The amount of freak athletic ability that guy possesses at his size is incredible. And the Lions have him on their offensive line. Like it just goes to show you how dominant that Lions defense, that Lions offensive lines can be on defenses and how difficult it's going to be when the Lions can run the ball effectively. They are such a good team. They're so tough to stop. So big win for the Lions. Bummer loss, unfortunately, for the Bucs. But there's, it's not a lost season. Still a lot of football to go. But if you're the Falcons and you're chasing the Bucs in the South, you feel like, okay, there's a little bit of a step back there without Mike Evans being on that team. So we'll see who they wind up bringing in, if anybody. The other game was kind of crazy. The Texans offense looked awful. Seattle rolled to a nice win, but the stats coming out of that game were kind of nuts. CBS Sports pointed this out. The Seahawks pulled off a bizarre win. 25-year losing streak by NFL teams that did what the Seahawks did last night. The Seahawks turned the ball over 4 times. They were held to less than 200 yards passing at 198 with Sam Darnold. And they were awful on third down, just 14.3% on third down. Teams before last night, since the start of 2001, there had been 39 different teams where they had 4 or more turnovers, less than 200 yards passing, and a third down conversion rate below 15%. Those teams before last night were 0-39. 0-39. And they won. Seattle won. Now, I think everybody's saying, like, this is a really improbable win for the Seahawks. I think it's an embarrassing loss for the Texans. I think this loss says more about Houston than the win does for Seattle. Seattle's at home. They play like crap at home. For whatever reason, under Mike McDonald, they stink at home. In front of the 12th man, they are not the same football team. They are much better on the road. Why? I have no idea. It makes no sense to me that actually is going on. However, I think from a Texan perspective, when you play as badly as they did in the first half, they were still in the game. And then they played decently in the second half, yet they still lost the game. You guys on the East Coast, you weren't up to watch that game. Us on the West Coast, we were actually kind of excited. There was football on TV at 9:30 at night. Like we had real NFL football on at 9:30 at night. But it was bad football because the Texans didn't look great at all. And the Seahawks, as I just said, performed really poorly. Really bad turnovers. It should have blown. That game should have been an absolute blowout. That should never have been a close game. But it was a close game. You're up by 14 points and you're throwing, wide receiver option passes with Cooper Kupp. Why? Like, why are you doing that? I don't understand, Seattle. I don't get the play calling. You let the Texans hang around. You let them stay in the football game. And they almost stole it. We probably should have stolen it with the way that they played. So that's my problem when I look at the Texans, not so much the Seahawks. I laid 3 with the Seahawks last night, so I was on Seattle. But I was looking at it going like, I don't know. It didn't look good. I'm going to text Pete Futek because Pete's sorry to do this live on the air, but Pete was supposed to be on 5 minutes ago. So I just want to get him on talking some college football. We'll talk this. But again, I am on the side of the Texans. That loss last night said more about the Texans and how I feel about them going forward. This week, another difficult test. I'm out on the 2-4 Texans. They have beaten nobody, and they have not looked, did they beat the Ravens? Whoopee. Like they haven't beat anybody of quality, and they're 2-4 in the year now. I'm off of it here. For tonight, the NBA comes back tonight. We talked about it in the opening line. OKC is laying 7.5 points at home against the Rockets. The total is 227. Again, I'll go back to remind you guys about softer numbers early in the season when it comes to the NBA. Like, I'm far more interested in betting NBA games right now than the World Series. Like, the numbers are so sharp. The action, the handle is so much larger. The books have so much more committed. They have so much time. Whenever a year begins, it's happened in hockey just recently. Now here at the NBA, the books have to figure things out. I mean, these are all numbers. 7.5, that was the number last year when OKC played at home. And OKC was absolutely dominant at home last year against the number. They were a betting darling. It didn't matter what number you put up, 7.5, 8.5, 9.5. But most games, the books would put 7 or 7.5 up for the Thunder, and that's where the ceiling would come in, and you get bets on the dog once you got over 3 possessions. This is one of Dave's principal plays for a long period of time, to not lay more than 6 points in an NBA game. Don't lay 3 possessions. It didn't matter for the Thunder last year. They were an absolute cash machine when it came to playing at home. The Rockets are playing their first game without Fred VanVleet, who's out for the year with the ACL injury, and first game with Kevin Durant. So what does this team look like? It may take some time. We've seen it previously where teams that have added Kevin Durant have taken some time because KD likes to have the basketball. This team for the Rockets, they're going to have like a whole starting 5 of over 6'10". Like, they're just going to have a huge team. So what does that do for rebounding and toughness? It's perfect for Ime Udoka. That's what he preaches, right? Now, who's the point guard? Oh, is it Kevin Durant? We're going to find out tonight. Is it Kevin Durant? But I think if you go and see what happens traditionally with the Thunder at home, fourth quarters is where they go and excel. How they covered so much was that if they entered the fourth quarter and the game was tied, you just bet the Thunder at home. They were just so good in the fourth quarter. Same thing could happen here tonight. I laid the 7.5, but I'm going to be watching this game all the way to see where we are in the fourth quarter. And if the live number is like 2 or 3, I'll come back in again and take the Thunder. So I really do believe this Thunder team, I know other teams might have gotten too confused. Other teams might have gotten too, all over the place. But this team, I think, will be focused. In particular because, again, going back to that Netflix show, if you watch the interactions between SGA last year, who was mic'd up for a bunch of games, and Kevin Durant, who was also part of the show, who was mic'd up, Kevin Durant shows us a part of his personality that I'm not sure we've seen before on that show, where he is talking openly about the anger he had at the Thunder for trading away James Harden after they had made 3 deep runs in the Western Conference playoffs, and it was Westbrook, Durant, and Harden, and how Harden, he said, and he's on the show too, he's mic'd up too, Harden has said that it was only a couple $1 million. Like, they were only a couple $1 million apart, and he was stunned that the Thunder turned around and traded him. Now, it worked out for all of them. Okay, they've all gone on to have Hall of Fame careers, but the Thunder at one point in time had Westbrook, Harden, and Kevin Durant together. You kids, look it up. It happened. So you had 3 incredible talents together, and that they were building something, and then they voluntarily broke it up because Harden was a restricted free agent, and they didn't think they could afford to hang on to all 3. That didn't sit well. Now, Westbrook's not on the show, but Durant says it point blank. He was pissed off that happened. So now Durant playing against the Thunder after they win the championship that they were supposed to win together. You got to figure his emotions tonight will be all spinning around. Like, you have to figure his mind tonight. If you want to bet Durant over points, I don't blame it. He may just go into me mode and like, give me the ball, get out of my way. And I'll worry about you kids later. I'll pass the basketball some other time, but it's me against SGA. SGA and Durant are friends. They get along. They like each other. So this is a really fun game tonight. There's a lot of storylines going into this game tonight. There's a lot of intrigue going into this game tonight. And I still like the Thunder big. I still like the Thunder to go and take care of business and dominate. If you're looking for something to watch, this is the game of the night. Rockets dropping the banner. the Thunder dropping the banner with the Rockets and Kevin Durant in town. And again, I love Ime Udoka, former Celtics coach. Obviously got himself in a whole lot of trouble, but a guy who was a tremendous coach last year, took that young group and really made them into something. And I think adding Kevin Durant and the leadership that they've got, Thunder are going to be a problem. They're absolutely in the championship conversation. The late game will be Golden State at the Lakers. Now, no LeBron tonight. New look Luka. Let's see what Luka looks like. Is Luka going to be this guy that everyone says he's going to be? New, in shape, going to play every game, not going to get hurt. Okay. But I'm just not a believer in this Lakers team. They all get hurt. Anthony Davis, LeBron, Luka, they all get hurt. Their bench is not that deep. LeBron opted into his contract. He opted into a $50 million contract. That put the team kind of in a tough spot. I'm not sure, if LeBron if he doesn't opt back in and he leaves the Lakers, where does this team go here? It's going to be based around Luka anyway. We know that. But what happens next? I'm not sure. I'm far more intrigued with Golden State than I am with the Lakers. I want to see what this Golden State lineup looks like. Excuse me. I want to see, can the Warriors stay healthy? I mean, Jimmy Butler last March elevated everything with this Warriors team. Took them, they were dead in the water. Remember, we were talking about Golden State. What's wrong with Golden State? They're under 500. They just weren't a good team. They were bad. And then they swung for the fences, made a gigantic trade. They got Jimmy Butler, and they took off. And they became one of the best teams in the NBA. Golden State posted the NBA's fourth best record and third best net rating and number one defensive team in the wake of the trade. That's how much one player in the NBA can alter a season. That's what makes basketball so unique. It really can be about one guy. You can bring in one player and fit that one player in and watch the team go 28-15, which is a 53-win pace overall. And when they had Curry, Green, and Butler all together on the court, they went 27-8. That is a 63-win pace for the Golden State Warriors. You have the best shooter of all time, right? It makes perfect sense. You have the best shooter of all time in Steph Curry. You have Draymond at the point forward position, who is just an annoyance still. And you have Jimmy Butler, who is a downright assassin. You have the guy you want to get to the rim. When you don't need a 3, but you need a 2 to tie, you give it to Jimmy Butler. When you need a guy to get a defensive stop, when you need a guy to D a guy up, you got Jimmy Butler. When you need a rebound from one of your guards, when the ball is loose on the floor, who do you want going after it? You want Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler fits and checks so many boxes as a Hall of Fame basketball player and what he has meant to so many different young stars coming up, to watch him, to watch what he's been able to do, to watch what he's been capable of doing and learning how to win. And Jimmy Butler, didn't want to leave Miami. I mean, I think he ultimately will go back and live there long term, but it was done. It was absolutely done. Yeah, Warriors to win 50 games? Sure, Ian. If they stay healthy, they should win 50 games. Absolutely. I looked at their win total last night, and my only reason why I didn't bet it, what kept me off of it, instead of looking at them, I'm looking at them from a macro perspective versus a micro perspective and going, okay, can they go and make a deep run in the postseason versus the regular season? Is the injury concern for Curry, for Butler, and for Green? They're not young. And they just need to get into the playoffs. They don't need, nobody has to be. The seeding, it's all, who cares? It's the play-in tournament, everything else. Yeah, it's great to have home court, but you don't need it. As we've seen playoff Jimmy, they don't need it. They don't care. They'll go on the road. They've done it before. They'll do it again. So, again, I think if you look at the Golden State Warriors for tonight or for the season, I think Golden State is a team that we're going to be talking about all winter long. And I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. I've always enjoyed watching Steph Curry because I love the way he approaches the game of basketball. He's changed the way the game has been played. I mean, he's been just a revolutionary type player. So I've always really liked the Warriors. I like Steve Kerr, his coaching style, what he has meant to the NBA. I think it is still pretty interesting. And if you watch it, not to keep on going back and giving plugs to the Starting Five show, but I was enthralled with it last night. I ripped through 3 episodes of it last night. Kevin Durant is pretty angry at the Warriors. There's two things that I would take away from that show from a betting perspective. One, and you guys, I'll let you go watch it, but SGA literally says, when I play this team, I always want to go off. I'll just tell you, it's the Clippers. So when the Warriors play the Clippers, we're going to be on SGA's player props over everything. Like he literally says out loud, when I play the Clippers, because that's how he wound up with the Thunder. That's who the Clippers drafted him. It's like, when I play the Clippers, I get up every game. Every time that's a team, every game I get up for the Clippers. So SGA triple-double, bet it when they play the Clippers for the first time. And then the other is that Kevin Durant is still really mad at the Warriors. He is mad at Charles Barkley because Barkley basically kind of downplayed Kevin Durant's role on that team, winning 2 championships, being a 2-time finals MVP, saying he wasn't driving the bus. And he has some like really, really specific things about what he did for that team, like how that team was built, how the Warriors won championships with Durant because of him, not because he was part of it, but because he's the one that took them to a championship. Now, we can debate that all you want as to how it is. I just found it fascinating that Durant, even after all these years, is still very angry at the perception that he was not a major part of those 2 championships and that he was not, the missing piece that led them to back-to-back championships. So I love that. I mean, I think that going into the season and going into Kevin Durant taking on the Warriors, whenever the Rockets play the Warriors, watch that. I would expect KD to have something in his bag, to have something going in. So, it's exciting. This is going to be a fun NBA season. It's always fun, I think, because the NBA, if you look at the numbers, I always found this fascinating. So betting pros who I work for the Daily Juice, they have amazing analytical quants, if you want to call it that, guys who run all the different numbers across for a variety of things. One of the things that always shocked me was when they showed me the numbers that the NBA does from a betting perspective. The NFL drives everything. The NFL is king. But online, the NBA is not that far behind. And I'm an NBA fan, but I'm a college basketball fan. I'm a college football fan. So I tend to watch, and like Cooper Flag, different sport. Sorry, combining. Cooper Flag's, playing at Duke and now going into the league to play with the Mavericks. Like, there is expectation that the Maverick games are going to be huge betting handle games. Like, the people are going to go and bet on Cooper Flag and what's going to happen with this Maverick team like crazy. So the numbers are a touch inflated, but it's because of so many kids. My brothers are in their late 20s, early 30s. They bet the NFL a little bit. They bet the NBA every damn night. Now, they bet parlays every night, but they bet the NBA every night. They argue about the NBA. They talk about the NBA. It's so interesting to me because in Vegas, we don't have an NBA team here. And there's big handle games because of the Lakers, but it's not around us the same way as it is amongst young people who are obsessing in group chats, who are arguing, who are putting together same game parlays, that are just looking at these NBA rosters, these prop bets all the time, because it happens every night. The answer that my brothers have given me is that it's like an NFL Sunday every night. There's 5 to 6 games every night in the NBA. Sometimes there's even bigger than that. Sometimes it's just huge. And so there's all sorts of things happening in the NBA that the NFL, while Sunday, Monday, Thursday, they're all huge, right? Those are gigantic days because it's a tent pole event. The NBA has tent pole events, but not the same way that the NFL does. The NBA is just consistent. It's every night. So every day you get up, you build your parlay. Every day you get up, you build your prop bet. Every day you're looking at the NBA. It's a rinse and repeat thing where it's 7 days a week. So from a young person's perspective, it's always there. So you can bet it more consistently. So I think that's really interesting when you watch the NBA as it starts because of online, just how different the whole thing is. It is, and frankly, it's why the NHL gets hammered. There's only one game tonight that has really people's attention in the NHL, and that's Brad Marchand going back to Boston with the Florida Panthers. Combined, these teams have lost 7 games combined. Panthers have lost 3 in a row. Boston's lost 4 in a row. Yeah, that's the problem. That's the NHL's issue. And that's why the NHL in October, the NHL really struggles until the NFL gets into the playoffs and until college football is over. Hockey handle and hockey attention is way down. I love hockey. I love betting on hockey, but I do understand the point of the casual person who has a job and a family and obligations. There's just too many things to watch and too many things to bet. And so hockey gets moved to the back burner unless there's a game like this tonight where you have some extra, storylines going into it with the return of Brad Marchand. In Boston, this is a big story. Outside of Boston, I don't know how many people really care about the return of the little ball of hate. He went to the Florida Panthers. He was traded there. Boston would have loved to have re-signed him. It didn't happen. He is now staying with the Panthers, who won the cup last year. And him and Matthew Tkachuk and, all going on. Hold on. I think we... time's wrong. Pizza said, I'll talk to you in a bit. There was 30 minutes ago. So I was telling him, hey, by the way, 1:15 Eastern was 30 minutes ago. He was like, oh, whoops. So I don't know what's going to go on with Pete. We'll see if we can get Futek on here before we wrap it. If not, we'll move him to tomorrow. Tomorrow will be Adam Bjorn, by the way. Tomorrow, Adam will, where in the world he'll be, I have no idea, but Adam will join us tomorrow on the program coming up for that. Yeah, it's a great month for sports in America. There's no debate. It's and we're getting close. The sports equinox ish, you're right, is coming where we have all 4 major sports coming up together. You can jump on now. Yeah, we'll get Pete Futek here in a second to jump on. Sorry to do this coming up today. One of the issues when you're booking everything and doing everything by yourself, you do have to kind of like pause it and do it all by yourself and be like, hey, by the way, there's nobody in the back to help out. So, we'll hopefully get Pete on so we can talk some college football with Pete, and then that will take us into bonus time coming up for that. So we'll get Pete on to talk some college football coaching carousels with that. So while we'll wait on him, we'll just do a quick version of just the picks until we get him up on. All right. I'm laying it with the Thunder. Well, like I mentioned, it's only 2 games. My 7.5, the number, I don't know if the number's moved or not on this game. I know the number moved for the Warriors game, but I think this is a win here for the Thunder. I think it's a flex for the Thunder. I think it's a celebration night for the Thunder. And I do think the Rockets are going to be a good basketball team. I think the Rockets are going to be a team we want to bet on, just not on opening night and not with how dominant the Thunder have been. I don't like the number. Okay. If you remember, one of Dave's, hardcore rules was don't lay 7.5 points in the NBA. It's too heavy. It should be under 6 or under to lay it. But I think on opening night, I'll lay the extra basket. I think obviously everyone's legs are going to be fresh and there's going to be a lot of hype and excitement in the building. The Rockets will definitely bring the A game out of the Thunder. So I don't expect much of a hangover. I don't expect much of maybe Thunder in the first half, if you want to play the hangover angle that, the ring ceremony and the banner dropping and everything else, the guys are a bit distracted. But I think this team is so young that I think that they are not resting on anything. I think that they know that people have questioned them all off season. I think there is a mission from SGA to go out there and hoop. I love the angle that he's talking about publicly about the fact that he's playing for Canada, that so many people questioned Canadian basketball. And that's true. I covered AAU when the Canadian invasion started in, and that was the number one knock for Canadian basketball teams, that for players, that their kids just weren't tough enough to deal with NBA or high-level college basketball. They were soft, which is weird because it's a country of hockey, but that was the knock. And SGA is like, yeah, we're here to prove everybody wrong, that that's not the case, that kids from Canada can hoop. And so far, SGA is turning out to be unbelievable. Like, unbelievable. Yes, as he would say, NBA stop sign. Yeah, the stop sign 7.5. I'm going to lay it. Oh, it's down to 6.5 now. Even better. Thanks, Ish. I would lay it. 6.5, 100%. And then finally, I like I got 2 for the Warriors last night. It's 3 now. I still would lay it. If it's one possession, I would still lay it with the Warriors tonight. I like them tonight on the road against the Lakers. No LeBron. Again, we give you all the numbers about how good the Warriors were with Butler, with Curry, and Green together. They were a 63-paced win team with those 3 guys on the floor. All 3 were on the floor coming up here for tonight. So I like the Warriors to get a W here tonight. All right, we got our guy. Let's talk some college football. The one and only Pete Futek joining us here on the Bostonian versus the Book. Thank you for jumping on so quickly. Sorry about the time change. I knew there was something going on.
It's my fault. I'm in Central Time Zone. I am a pure idiot when it comes to actually reading the ET versus CT. So 1,000% my bad, America. It's not Matt Perrault's fault.
It's all good. Thank you for doing it. I appreciate it. All right, let's start with the Penn State job, because this is open, and it's open, mid-season, and then they lost to Iowa, and like everything is falling apart in Happy Valley. They were a top 2 team preseason, and now their coach has been fired. One, it's a great job, but who gets this job in your mind?
It's not who I think Penn State fans want. So actually the problem for the Penn State job is the absolute, there's a really, really good candidate out there, and he is the perfect fit. Unfortunately, it's James Franklin. So like if he's, look, there, but for one defensive stop in any of those 3 games, he's still the head coach. If Drew Aller doesn't throw that pick in double overtime, if his defense comes up with a 4th and goal stop on Oregon, they're number 2, maybe the number 1 team in the country. UCLA's obviously improved, but that was sort of unacceptable. And obviously, let's chalk up the Northwestern thing to everyone being sad. But still, there's this feeling that the Penn State fans couldn't get rid of this guy fast enough. Yep. And to be careful what you wish for. When he got fired, there was only one other coach in all of college football who had been at the same spot as long as James Franklin had been at Penn State and won at least 70% of his games. Dabo. For all the he didn't beat top 10 teams. Nobody beats top 10 teams. It's hard. That's why they're top 10 teams. And so the guy who was in the college football playoff Final Four was a Drew Aller pass in that away from maybe playing for the national championship. And yeah, it was a little disappointing this year, but man, you want to talk about like being quick to the trigger here? There's lots of rumors about maybe Adidas wanted someone new, or because they're the ones who are funding the $300 million here in this thing. And so there's lots of different aspects to this. But to your question, who the right pick is, the problem is we are in the middle of the season, which means that any head coach you want who's currently coaching is probably pretty good and is probably having a pretty good season, and you can't get them right now, and you have to wait 2 months if you want a Matt Rule or a Manny Diaz, or I thought Cignetti would still he's cheap at this point, at this rate, whatever Indiana signed him at. So anybody you want, you're not getting him for another 2 months.
If you guys are watching on Sports Grid, thank you for being here. You want more with Pete Futek, we're doing it in bonus time. Come on over to our YouTube channel at Boston versus the Book. The rest of you guys who are live, don't move. So, what do you make of the Matt Rule situation with Nebraska? I mean, he hasn't come out and vehemently said, "I'm not taking it." His quarterback, Dylan Raiola, has said, "Coach isn't going anywhere," but we haven't heard Matt Rule say that he's not going anywhere. He's an alumni. He's from Happy Valley. Is he the guy they're going to target once the year is over, or do you think he stays at Nebraska?
I never got it. I didn't get I think he's got, because he has those Penn State ties, and because remember Temple, you don't remember, no one remembers this. Temple beat Penn State like in the opener 5 years, 7 years, 10 years ago, whenever it was, and that sort of stuck in the Penn State mindset that Matt Rule. He had one very good year at Baylor. He did a couple of good things at Temple for a couple of years. And is he great at Nebraska? No. I mean, he's fine, but they're not going to do much of anything the rest of the way here, probably. He's certainly a mess at Carolina. And I never got the Matt Rule thing, but the guy keeps making lots of money at all these big gigs. And it's to your point, exactly what you said. If you're a college football head coach and you don't scream that, "No, I'm not taking this job," well, then there's something there to this. I mean, my long story short, when the Texas job became open several years ago before Sarkisian, we were at where I was working, had an interview with Mike Gundy going, and the guy asked him a question, Mike Gundy stormed off the set. "I'm not talking about this. I'm not taking no Texas job." That's how you react to, "I'm not taking this job." And all due respect to Dylan Raiola, college kids are dumb. They don't know what he doesn't know what the high finance business world is of college coaching, because the players are always going to hear from their coaching, "I'm with you, your family, we're together," until they're not.
Yeah. So Billy Napier finally gets his walking papers. Another big job, SEC job. Is this Lane Kiffin or is it other people? It just feels like Florida's in the same boat that Penn State is in. You fired a guy mid-season. It kind of puts you behind the 8 ball here in terms of the negotiation going forward, because it feels like there's one guy who they want for this job.
And the firing was messed up. I mean, they just beat Mississippi State. They just beat Texas 2 weeks ago. So he's won 2 of his last 3 games. And I don't think Georgia's completely unbeatable by Florida with this defense. I mean, it seems like exactly what you said. They got a guy who they like, and the worst thing that could possibly happen to screw this all up is if Napier in Florida beats Georgia, because if that happened, you can't fire Napier. So it's an odd timing. But all the things about, Lane Kiffin loves it in Oxford and stuff. Oxford, University of Mississippi football program just isn't big enough. I know it's SEC, and they're going to go to the college football playoff, so you're not touching this guy until January, if that's the guy. But in terms of just, by comparison, I know we're talking high finance here, but the Ole Miss University has roughly an athletic department budget of around 150-ish million. By comparison, Texas, which is the biggest monster, is like 330 million. Most of the big guys are at about 200. So obviously Florida's a bigger job, but it's not the easy job that everyone assumes it is. And so if you're Kiffin, you got your pick here. And so I kind of quipped before and saying Cignetti got in the cheap. If you're Kiffin's, agent, you're like, "Let's start this at 20 million. Pay me like half of what a starting NFL quarterback gets. Let's go." And you want me, this is what costs to come get me.
So we saw it when the rumor mills were flying around about Matt Rule, and Nebraska went out and laid an egg last week. I was stunned at how poorly they played. And you can say that PJ Fleck owns Matt Rule in Nebraska because he's 7-1 over the last 8 games against the Huskers. So maybe there is something to that with PJ Fleck in Minnesota. But Ole Miss is at Oklahoma this week. Is this a danger spot here for Ole Miss going on the road with this Lane Kiffin story flying around?
Yeah, it's dangerous on a bunch of levels where, in the Matt Rule thing, what's the timing? First rule of comedy. If you're looking for a job, don't lose to Minnesota when you're supposed to try to get a big extension from somewhere. Same thing here. But it's Kiffin. I mean, again, I don't mean to dog Ole Miss as a university or as a football program, but this is not a program that wins games. It's not a traditional superpower, even though we all kind of think of it because of the Manning situations and, all the old school SEC stuff, but it's just not. And so this is actually the best era of Ole Miss football ever. He was great in his 1 year at Tennessee. I thought he was better than he got credit for at USC because they were in that coma penalty under Reggie Bush. He took Florida Atlantic to championship. I mean, Lane Kiffin is about as good a college football coach as it gets. So even if they lose to Oklahoma, which they very much could do, then no, I don't think it matters too much. But if you look at the rest of the Ole Miss schedule, if they get by Oklahoma, they're 11-1. I mean, unless they trip up against a Mississippi State on the road in the Egg Bowl, they're going to go 11-1 and be like the 5th seed in the the college football playoff.
And you could be playing football until January. So
January 22nd is the national championship. I don't think Ole Miss is getting there, but yes. So you're not touching Lane. You're not getting your Lane Kiffin, shiny new toy until the second week of January.
You didn't say Brian Kelly to Penn State, and I'm wondering what you perceive of his future at LSU, and would he leave voluntarily, or is LSU going to send him along the way, given what's happening right now?
He's not going to make more money at Penn State. I mean, Penn State's going to break the bank for somebody, and the problem with the Penn State gig is there was that contingent of fans that did not like James Franklin and was like, hey, this guy can't, get over the hump and win the really, really big one. But there are also a lot of people who are like, you know what? He did win a lot of games. It is hard to win 70% of your college football games. It's hard. I know they got the kids' table games against SMU and Boise State in the playoff, but they still got to the Final Four. Right. So like it needs a tweak. And be careful for what you wish for, because, there wasn't a time all that long ago when the idea of like, well, anybody can win at Florida, anybody can win at Florida State, men of a certain age like us. Oh, well, Nebraska, that's a job. Then, no, it's not that easy to just roll in and win. Look at Wisconsin right now. That's a disaster. I mean, I'm not saying Penn State's going to fall off that map, but if you're a Penn State fan and you maybe wanted James Franklin to go, your thought is, I want a whopper. I want you to at least call Nick Saban. I want you to call, so I want the biggest names possible. At least I know you try, which speaks to the problem, because every massive job opening, every college football fan base assumes that they can get anybody. Like, why wouldn't we can get a Harbaugh? Let's just go which they actually could probably get John right now. But like, they always think we can get a Harbaugh. Why wouldn't Mike Tomlin go from Pittsburgh to Penn State? Why wouldn't, which honestly, at this point, you get paid more as a college coach, so why wouldn't he? But they're delusional. And so when you get like, oh, and your new head coach, Manny Diaz, they're like, but you never know until you get these guys into the system.
So Florida State's taking the approach that old school, we don't fire mid-year. If we're going to make a change, we're going to wait till the year is over, and then we're going to make a firing. Is Mike Norvell, the school is claiming they're committed to him, but that's always the kiss of death. What do you make of his situation with Florida State going forward? Is Norvell back next year?
How can you, I mean, last year was forgivable because everyone was sad because they didn't get in the college football playoff, even though they got it right. But okay, rebuilding. And you can't go from beating Alabama to start the season to losing at Stanford. I mean, that's just you don't do that. So like now they're gonna get to a bowl, but they're probably gonna get to a bowl at like 6-6, and that's not exactly what you're looking for if you're Florida State. That's a fascinating coaching search because it's Florida State and it's a monster, but they don't necessarily pay, like most do. And so the name that's going to float out there from the start, which is going to be the most fun, the most crazy, how does that Coach Prime? Like, how is that not how do they not say, hey, we're going to spend every dollar we have to get that guy? Which, one, I don't necessarily think he's that great a coach overall.
Okay.
And two, you're going to get him away from Colorado, where he's got his comfort zone, where he's become a superstar, where he's there for life if he wants to be. And like, he is a good coach, but they're not going to make a bowl game this year. They're like one of so it's the post Shador era is not going well. So from a lot of different levels, that would be for doing what we do. That'd be tons of fun for content for days. But I would think that you got to at least, you can't insult the man by not bringing Florida State back to Florida State.
Right. One more coaching question. What is going on with Belichick at North Carolina? What's the future here? Is he staying? Is he going? Is he going to work his own buyout to go back to the media and get $1 million? Like what's going on?
He screwed it up, but all they had to do was just say, we're in rebuild mode. The problem is when you get an old Bill Belichick, who's not going to be the head coach there 5 years from now, and you get 70 new transfers coming in, the thought is, okay, we got our base, we got our transfers, and we've got the greatest head, football coach of all time. Of course it's going to work, but it's not just that easy. You got to build this thing up over time, and just being Bill Belichick isn't going to be quite enough. Why does a guy like Signetti rock right away at Indiana? One, he's really good at this, and two, he brought over like the top 16 guys from James Madison, found the right pieces in, and it just all clicked. And plus, you gotta want to do the work all the time. College football coaching is tough because it's unrelenting. Like pro football, there's a steady rhythm to it no matter what. It really is the X's and O's. You don't have to worry about, you don't have to get on the phone at halftime with 10 guys, 10, 16-year-old kids kissing up to them who don't know who Tom Brady is. So like it's all the work that goes into being a college coach. And if you're into it and you love it and you love the work, you are the Lord of all you survey, and it's everything here. But his team's just not playing well, and you got to put that on the coaching right now.
I can't. If you're Carolina, how big of a mistake do you feel like you made with the Jordan Hudson situation, with the 60-minute situation, with the Hulu show that was on and then off? I mean, it goes to that first drive of the year. They score a touchdown. Michael Jordan's in the crowd. Everybody thinks that we're going to dominate college football. And it's literally been an avalanche of shit downhill since that touchdown drive for North Carolina.
Well, because think of it, let's say you're a movie producer and you're getting the pitch. You're in the North Carolina athletic department and you're getting the pitch saying, you know what? Look at Colorado. Look at what, like Colorado. The funny part about the Colorado thing is they still weren't good. Like but Deion Sanders, who I don't mean to be dogging him, because he's probably my favorite athlete of all time. But like, because it's Coach Prime and because it was so much fun and because their games were a blast and Shador was throwing Hail Marys to pull your butts out of the fire and Travis Hunter was playing, was doing everything. And like, this was the fun program. And it's still to this day, I think even though they suck, they're still, I think, the prime time game this week. And it's Colorado. And it's like, all right, fine. So, it's, we're going to show shots of Deion on the sideline. And that's what you're hoping for. If you're North Carolina, think about it. We got Bill Belichick, who, like, how do you not take Bill Belichick as your head coach? I mean, even if it doesn't work, if you took the flyer, it didn't, but you don't say, hey, we're not going to take that guy and give him a shot because maybe you catch his fire. The other stuff is just periphery, but I'm going to still speak this into existence. What's interesting about this, and I don't think it's going to happen because I don't think Belichick's going anywhere, is that if like you're North Carolina, you want James Franklin. I went to Wisconsin. When they get rid of Fickle, please, James Franklin, bring him. So North Carolina is one of those places that they can get a pretty good head coach there, but I don't think Belichick's going anywhere for a little while.
We'll end it with this, Pete. Missouri at Vandy. Is that the best game of the weekend? Is that where we are here for football? And I love Vandy, but like, is that the best game of the weekend? Missouri at Vanderbilt?
Texas A&M, LSU. I mean, Michigan State sucks. I mean, I guess going back to what you said, how about Ole Miss and Oklahoma?
Okay.
And the other one that I think, how about the most interesting?
All right.
UCLA at Indiana. Like, what if?
Yeah.
Like, and I've got a column going up in a few minutes from now. Like, it ain't happening. But what if UCLA wins out? Because you want to talk about the most wacky of wacky scenarios. Let's say they figured this out. Let's say they win. If they win out, that means they win at Indiana, at Ohio State, and at USC. Like, they're not going to do it. So it's not happening. But let's say they did. First of all, they're in the Big Ten championship. Okay. And even if they lost that close, and if you're the college football playoff committee, and you're saying, you know what? We left out Florida State a couple years ago because of the quarterback situation. Well, apparently the coaching change mattered. and you've got wins at Indiana, at Ohio State. You ruined the Penn State program, and you won at USC. Like, how do you not think, okay, you're, even if you are, 8-5, that's one of the 12 best teams in the country at this point. So it would be a real fun situation, which is not going to happen again. But let's say they do beat Indiana. It's at least worth a watch to see. Maybe, just maybe, they got something there for this.
Interesting. Pete, where can people read that column and where can they find your work?
On collegefootballnews.com, and anytime with you once I get my time change and time zones correct.
You're the best. Thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it. We'll talk soon, all right?
Later, Matt.
Pete Fiutek, collegefootballnews.com, joining us here on the Bostonian versus the Book. Glad we got that done today because we're busy the rest of the week. And so I did not know if we were going to be able to squeeze him in if we did not get him today. So I appreciate him jumping on the show for today. UCLA to win out. Oh my, could you imagine that? That would be unbelievable. That would be amazing. Not going to happen, but it would be amazing if UCLA figured it out and turned the ship around like that, a complete 180 for the season. Favorite thing about today? All right. I don't have much from a favorite thing about today perspective, except that yesterday was midterm day for my class at UCLA, at UNLV. And it's always a really fun part of the semester for me because we start to see the kids get close, and it always reminds me whenever I get to this point of the season, it always reminds me of what happened back during COVID when there was such disjointed, everything was separated and we weren't together, and that getting to know people. Like, so I'm sitting here in my house. I haven't done content at a studio with a producer, with going into a radio station. I've not done that for a decade. Now, the 5 years before COVID, it was because I was going into the Palazzo. I was going into a studio, but it was just me. My producer was back in Houston. So I was in LA, I was in Vegas. My producer was in Houston. So I was still doing that dynamic of having a producer and I was the host in a radio station, but it was, Palazzo had converted a coat closet into being a place where I was broadcasting out of. So there was obviously a different type of feeling to that situation. So it's been 10 years. And I got to admit, it is weird that, like, when I go to work, I don't go to work in the way I used to. And so that interaction, that personalization where you get to know somebody over time just doesn't happen. At least for me, at least for us in the content space. For so many of us, we see everyone virtually. Like Pete, I've known Pete for almost 20 years now. I've known him for forever. But like, that's just because of content. I've been in the same place as Pete Fiutek, I think like 5 times where I've actually been physically present with Pete, but I text with him all the time for college football stuff. And so, like, that interaction of watching my students over the course of, we started in late August and now we are here in mid-October, and you start to see them, some of it's clicky, but most of it is being comfortable around somebody, getting to know their background, getting to know their history. You start sharing parts of yourself. You start sharing stories, and you start to have some common ground, some common stories to tell each other. And that's, it's fun. It's as a teacher, as a professor, it's fun to watch that. And it's just a reminder about the human condition and a reminder about how much as human beings we need that connection. And so as we go into this like virtual world, how we can't lose that. We can't, it's the one reason why I absolutely love teaching at UNLV, because it forces me to actually see people. Like, if on the weeks that I don't have my daughter, and if I wasn't teaching at UNLV, I would have no reason to leave this house. I would have no obligation. I would have no requirement for me to leave this house. I could stay here 4 or 5 days in a row, really more than that. 6, I could probably say 7 days in a row, and not leave my house and get everything done. Get all my food delivered, get all my requirements, whatever I need, can all be delivered to the house. I don't need to do anything. I can get it brought here. I don't need to shop for anything that needs to be done personally. I could have it all be delivered, I would have no reason to leave the house. Get all my jobs done, all of my multiple shows. I mean, I do for Betting Pros, I do a show every single day for 7 days a week, and I do 3 other shows for them during the week. So I have 4 shows for Betting Pros that I do, all done right here. I do this show, BVB, every Monday through Friday, here, not moving. What else? So that's the modern world, and it's dangerous to do that. Like that's not good. It's not healthy for us to be that way. So we need to be connected with people. We need to be around each other. And it's fun to see my students at this point in the year kind of get to that and go, yeah, this is why we have to, going to college online is great, but it's not the same as going to college in person. My thanks to Pete Futek, collegefootballnews.com. Go check out his stuff if you haven't read it before. It's a great site for all he does betting, his picks and plays and whatnot. So you can go read the content at collegefootballnews.com. It is a Wednesday. It is a Bet Chris Arizona Wednesday. Adam Bjorn joins us tomorrow. Where in the world will Adam Bjorn be? We'll find out tomorrow on a Wednesday episode of BVB.